What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Chihu Garage. Oh yes, you're not dreaming. This is a second video in the same month. This video is dropping on my birthday today, and I turned 45 years old, man. Jesus, where has the time gone? But anyway, this is gonna be part 4 of the QuadCab build. In part 4, we're gonna drop the crank in, do the main bearing clearances, and when I do that part, I'm gonna voice over because I was watching football. See, you can hear the TV the whole time, and I was just trying to concentrate. So at least I had the camera on. I told you I'm the shittiest YouTuber, but I had the camera on. I was videoing me putting the main bearings and do the clearances. So that's what we're gonna show. And then after I do the main bearings, I'm gonna set the timing chain and with a sprocket. And I didn't say it in the video, but I'm gonna say it now because you're gonna see me put on a 3-bolt cam sprocket, and that's because we swapped out the DOD, right? The DOD has a big 1-bolt cam. I think I finally threw that cam away. So this is the 1-bolt sprocket for the VVT. So when you do the DOD delete, mine also had VVT, so it had this big ass, whatever you call this thing on the back. So you got rid of this and put the regular like a LS3 3-bolt sprockets with the cam. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to confuse anybody, but if you're wondering, hey, my Gen 4 sprocket don't look like that, yeah, because they don't. It look like this, right? So you swap it out, and then after I do that, I'm gonna put on the oil pump and show you guys how I set the oil pump. And then once that's all done, then I'm gonna do the piston rod bearing clearances and install the pistons. And that should be it for this video. And then we'll do the rest in part 5 and 6 or whatever. But I gotta catch up on all these videos because in the meantime I'm still doing stuff, recording more videos, but I gotta show all this stuff first before I can show the new stuffs. And that's enough yapping. Let's get into the video. All right, boys, here we go. So what you see right now is the crank back from the machine shop. Beautiful handwriting. Yes, my government name is Brandon, but you can see the R standard, M standard. So that means we use standard bearings for the mains and the rods. So here's the Cleveite bearings that I got from Summit. And now I'm just setting in the crank. This is the magic Plastigage. I'll be referring it to the wax, the green wax little thing. And yes, this is how you do precision measuring. So you cut strips off and you put it on your main journals. This is the torque sequence. You set your caps on, torque them all the way down. And the main thing when you do this, just remember, do not rotate the crank because it's gonna mess up that wax strip, right? So here I go in speed mode. Yep, running the bolts down, but not, you know, like I always say, you can use the impact to run it down, but you don't gotta get crazy. And then follow your torquing procedures. There's a torque spec, and then you gotta hit the angles. So that's what I do. Hit the angles, going in sequence. Okay? This is just me showing off this angle gauge, cheap one on Amazon, but I'll talk about that later on when I do the piston rods. And then now, after it's torqued, you remove the caps, and voila, you see the wax nice and smashed. Here, just let me verify. Smashed wax. Smash wax. Smash wax. And smash wax, okay? All the mains. And then on the paper that it came in, there's a guide. So the smashed wax, it's not smaller than 0.002, and it's not bigger than 0.001, so it fits right in the middle at 1.5 thousandths. And typical clearance, when I look up, it says 0.0008 to 2.5, which is 0.0025. So that's for new bearings. If you are reusing bearings, I don't know why you would, but if you were reusing it and you wanted to check, the clearances are going to be different. But here I go through the block, and I got 1.5 thousandths all the way. See? Because the tighter it goes, then the fatter it's going to get. And you just don't want to be less than 1,000. Okay. The first time I heard about this method, I was like, what in the precision is this? But this is how engine builders been doing this for years. And it's proven. And you know what? My truck starts up and runs like a champ, so it works. Okay? We're just going through. This is like, we just got to document and show proof that, hey, this guy actually did put this thing together and not pay somebody else, which is fine if that's your thing. But okay, so we got here just another demonstration, 1.5 thousandths. Bingo bango, pickle mango. So after you get all your clearances set, you can wipe the wax off with just like a shop towel and brake clean. Okay, man, we get the point. Let's move on. Okay, so I wiped it all off with brake clean. Now I'm pulling it back out. Ooh. Yep. And I got some lube. I love this stuff. I forgot to use that one. I didn't have it when I put the cam in, so I'm putting some on the cam now. I used a different Lucas one for the cam, but yeah, the red stuff is better. And now we can rotate. Oh yeah. Put some more red stuff. Ultra slick. Yep. And then now we can put our caps back on. And I'm reusing the factory main bolts that came with it, because you can. Like, other stuff is mandatory replacement, like the heads. But these ones, they say you can torque them to angle about like 3 or 4 times before you should swap them out. But yeah. So here we go, putting them down for the final time. And just speed this part up, and maybe we can, we just speed this part up. Okay, got the angle gauge, do all that stuff, torque them to spec. Okay, now I just did the middle to spec, and now I'm pounding the crank towards the rear to set the thrust bearing. The middle one is the thrust bearing. So I'm setting the thrust bearing in place. And now you can see me when I move it. I forget what the spec for this is, but I was getting about, see here, about 2 thousandths of clearance. Yeah. So that's how you measure the thrust. Okay, finish tightening. Turn as you must. I'll rotate it a little just so I can hook the stopper onto one of the counterweights for the crank. Well, yeah. we get this bad boy torqued down to spec, and then we can move on to the next part where I do the timing chain and the sprocket. And while we're here, don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video with a friend. Okay. Now I just put this gear on. I didn't record, but pretty much you can just pound it on or press it on. It lines up with the keyway under here. So you just slip it on, and I just use the old crank bolt with a spacer that was this big, and just pushed it on until it's flush. You can tell when you can't go no more. I mean, no brainer. So now I'm gonna put on the timing chain the easiest way that I know how. So this is the hole on the crank sprocket that you're gonna line up with there's a little notch on the cam sprocket. What I do, I take the sprocket and it only can go on one way. Kind of hold it up there. So without the pistons in, everything turns freely. Like, I can spin the cam with my hand. I mean, I can, but... And then the crank, so I kind of lined it up like that. You can see that this tooth and this tooth is right in line. You guys see that? Okay. Now, I pretty much got the sprocket is just sitting here in line. I'm just gonna pull this off without moving the cam. Put the chain around the sprocket like this. And I'm making sure that this thing is at the top. So now, I'm gonna try to slip this over, keeping that at the top. And you know, if you're off one tooth, you're gonna be way off, so it's gonna be easy to recognize. And that's it. That was so easy. But so now with these 3 bolts, I'm gonna use a orange Loctite. So the orange Loctite is supposed to hold like the red but break loose like the blue. Okay, and these are ARP bolts, and it says to torque them to 25 foot-pounds. Okay, so now I'm gonna just stick something in the crank to keep it from spinning. Okay, 25 foot-pounds. But I'm just gonna check my marks. And this lines up. Bango. See that? straight up and down. See this white mark I made on the gear? I just extended the mark of the dot so I can see it when the oil pump goes on. Okay, now I'm gonna put on the timing chain tensioner, but this is actually a factory one, and I don't want to put this on. It's brand new, but I don't want to use this because these plastic pieces are known to crack when they get brittle, and then causes your engine to make noise, and you get plastic in your engine. So instead, I'm gonna use, this is a LS3 timing chain tensioner. So like Gen 3 engines, there's nothing over here. You don't have a tensioner on the Gen 3, so the Gen 4s, they made these tensioners. And I'm gonna use the LS3 one. And there's not really torque specs for that, so I'm just gonna torque it to 25, because that's what these were. Okay, so the whole reason why we did this before we put the pistons in is because right now the crank in the cam can spin pretty easily, which is gonna help us line up our oil pump. So, oh, this is the Melling M365, and it's pretty much a stock replacement, but just keep in mind that stock replacement on a DOD AFM engine is already high pressure. So, you know, we're getting rid of the DOD and stuff, so we don't really need high pressure, but you can look up the specs to this oil pump. It's around 40 to 60 or something like that, I forget. I'm gonna go get the bolts. And these use the orange Loctite too. I'm just gonna run them down hand tight. Hand tight but flush, you know, so that when you grab this thing, you see that play? That's what you want. This is how we're gonna center the oil pump. And this is per Melling procedures. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is pour some engine oil in this bad boy. If you want to see that. And then, per the Melling instructions, none of this take off this cover and shim it crap. Okay, putting my crank bolt back in. We got the play that we're looking for, right? Okay. And I got my torque wrench set to 18. And we're just gonna spin this bad boy. Spin it a couple revolutions. And this is what it's centering the gears to itself with the oil inside of it. And then torque it to 18 with the right socket. Damn it. And that's it. Your oil pump is centered. Ta-da! Okay, so when it comes to doing the rod bearing clearance for the rod bearings to the crank, you can use the Plastigage like we did on the mains, or I chose a different route. So pretty much what you do, or pretty much what I did was I took my outside mic, here it is, and I gotta show the brand name because my co-workers are gonna think I stole this from work, but I didn't, okay? Amazon. So you pretty much take your size of the rod journals, and they should all be the same. 2.100, all right? But this did get polished from the machine shop, so it could be like a half of a thousandth smaller, so 2.1005, which, you know, that's barely anything. So anyway, what you do is you take this, okay, I'm just showing you because I already did them, and then you get your dial bore gauge. Even this too, guys, Amazon, not from work. We zero this thing out to here, okay, you zero it out, and then when I stick this into the bearing cap, so here's a video of the bearing cap in the vise, and the caps are torqued down. You gotta torque them down. And then now when I stick this in, I'm getting about plus 2,000ths, which is the 2,000ths clearance that we need. And I think this way is easier, or maybe faster, as far as checking the rod bearing clearance, because then you can only do 2 cylinders at a time, right? And then you gotta spin it, do the next 2, spin it, do the. But either way, you can do Plastigage for that too. But this way, I just torqued all my caps and bearings down, stuck them in the vise and measured them. And now that they're good, I can go throw them in the block. So now I got all the pistons in. I got all the rod bearing caps on, but they're not torqued down, so I'm gonna torque them down now. And the spec for this is 15 and then 85 degrees. First, you set your torque wrench. That would help. 15. You seen me use my impact a little while ago, but I wasn't hitting it hard. Just snugging it up. Okay, 15. Now 85 degrees. Got my angle gauge. Now this thing was from Amazon. It was cheap. Honestly, If you cannot figure out how to use this thing, then you probably shouldn't be touching the engine in the first place, because it's not that hard. Get this thing on. Sorry, new one. Cameraman. God damn it. Okay. So as you can see, my plastic dial over here is if I turn this to set my 0, that's what moves. But if the black piece where this is connected, right, that moves that. So what I'm gonna do is, when I get my breaker bar set or ratchet or whatever, and then I got this thing stuck, so that's not gonna move anymore, then I can put this on my 0, and then can't really see because you see the 0 on the top, 85 over there. Okay, so now I'll try to hit this in one swoop. There's a 80, and that's about halfway 5. See that? Okay. Now you might have to move it around depending what you can get to stop your stuff from moving. See how I just, now it's on there. Set my 0 again. 0, 85. And that. That's about it. Okay, now do that 7 more times, and it should be good. Number 6, the brand new piston. You can still see the markings on top. So now that we know everything's operating nice and smooth, we can get to the next step. So this is that number 6 piston that I showed. I showed the new one in the block, and I changed it because of all this pitting. And I couldn't see the pitting until after we cleaned it in the ultrasonic. By we, I mean me. And it's due to this lifter. The guy that got us in this predicament in the first place. So all that metal shavings, damage to the piston, and in turn caused me to tear down the whole block and change out everything pretty much. Okay guys, that's it for part 4. Come back for part 5, hopefully in a super near future, and wrap up this block. But if you stay to the end, I can show you a teaser. If you're watching all these videos and wondering like, wow, what is this guy doing? Is that even gonna work? I got a teaser for you.